My husband caringly cooked me huge portions of food, bought only unhealthy products, and sabotaged all my attempts to exercise. When I gained 30 kilograms, he confessed, "Now no one else will want you." I never thought I'd be writing this story, but here I am at 2 a.m., sitting in my sister's spare bedroom, finally ready to share what happened to me over the past 3 years. I'm shaking as I type this because I still can't believe how blind I was to what was happening. 3 years ago, I was 33 and felt pretty good about myself. I wasn't a supermodel or anything, but I was healthy, active, and confident. I had just started dating this guy I met at a coffee shop downtown. He seemed so different from the men I'd dated before, attentive, caring, always wanting to take care of me. Looking back now, those were red flags I completely missed. We moved in together after 6 months of dating. That's when things started changing, but so gradually that I didn't notice at first. He insisted on doing all the grocery shopping because he wanted to pamper me after my long days at work. I thought it was sweet. He'd come home with bags full of food, always my favorite treats, premium ice cream, fancy chocolates, bags of chips I mentioned liking once. The portions he served at dinner were massive. When I'd push my plate away half finished, he'd get this hurt look on his face and say I didn't appreciate his cooking. He'd guilt-trip me about how hard he worked to make these elaborate meals, how he researched recipes just for me. So I started forcing myself to finish everything on my plate to make him happy. He also developed this habit of surprising me with food throughout the day. He'd show up at my workplace with fast food lunches, saying he was worried I wasn't eating enough. He'd wake me up in the middle of the night with warm cookies or brownies he'd baked, claiming he couldn't sleep and wanted to share them with me. Every time I tried to say I was full or didn't want any, he'd act like I was rejecting him personally. Within the first year of living together, I'd gained about 15 pounds. I started feeling uncomfortable in my clothes and mentioned wanting to join a gym. He was immediately supportive, or so I thought. He researched gyms in our area, signed me up for a membership at this nice place downtown, even bought me new workout clothes. But then strange things started happening. My gym bag would go missing right before I planned to work out. My new workout clothes would mysteriously end up in the dirty laundry even though I hadn't worn them. When I'd get ready to leave for the gym, he'd suddenly have an emergency or crisis that needed my immediate attention. His car would break down and he'd need me to drive him somewhere. His mother would call upset about something and he'd beg me to stay and help him handle the situation. I later found out he had been calling the gym pretending to be me, canceling my membership multiple times. Each time I'd show up, they'd tell me my membership had been canceled and I'd have to sign up again. He'd act shocked and angry on my behalf, promising to help me sort it out, then secretly cancel it again a few days later. The weight kept creeping up. By the end of our second year together, I had gained almost 25 pounds. I felt sluggish, uncomfortable, and my confidence was at an all-time low. I'd catch glimpses of myself in mirrors and barely recognize the person staring back. My work clothes were getting tight, and I had to buy new ones in larger sizes multiple times. I tried talking to him about my concerns, about wanting to eat healthier and be more active. He'd nod sympathetically and promise to help, then continue the same patterns. He'd suggest we take walks together, but then remember he had work to catch up on. He'd agree to cook lighter meals, then present me with massive portions of pasta or fried foods, claiming he'd already started cooking before remembering our conversation. The breaking point came about 6 months ago when I stepped on the scale and realized I had gained 30 pounds since we moved in together. I broke down crying, and instead of comforting me, he got defensive. He started listing all the ways he'd tried to help me, all the sacrifices he'd made, how ungrateful I was being. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the strange coincidences, all the times my efforts to get healthy had been mysteriously thwarted. I started paying closer attention to his behavior, and what I discovered made my blood run cold. He had been systematically sabotaging every attempt I made to lose weight or get healthy. I found emails in his computer showing he'd been canceling my gym memberships. I discovered he'd been adding extra butter, oil, and sugar to everything he cooked, way more than any recipe called for. He had been secretly putting heavy cream in my coffee every morning instead of the low-fat milk I requested. But the most shocking discovery was a notebook hidden in his closet. In it, he had been tracking my weight, measurements, and what he called my attractiveness level to other men. He had written detailed plans about how to keep me gaining weight, including specific foods to feed me and ways to prevent me from exercising. There were notes about my emotional state, how to manipulate me when I tried to resist eating, and strategies for making me feel guilty about wanting to be healthier. The final entry in that notebook, dated just 2 weeks before I found it, said, "Mission almost complete. She's gained 30 pounds and her confidence is destroyed. She barely leaves the house except for work now. No other man would look at her twice. She's completely dependent on me and won't leave because she thinks she can't do better." I felt sick reading those words. This man I loved, who I thought loved me back, had been deliberately destroying my health and self-esteem as a form of control. He wanted to make me so unattractive and insecure that I'd never have the confidence to leave him or find someone else. When I confronted him with the notebook, he didn't even try to deny it at first. He just stared at me for a long moment, then said the words that will haunt me forever. "Now no one else will want you anyway, so what does it matter?" The casual cruelty in his voice, the matter-of-fact way he said it like he was commenting on the weather, that's when I realized I was living with someone who didn't see me as a human being. I was just a possession to him, something to be controlled and shaped according to his desires. I packed a bag that night and left. I've been staying with my sister ever since, and slowly starting to rebuild my life. It's been incredibly difficult, not just physically but emotionally. The damage he did to my self-worth runs deep, and some days I still hear his voice in my head telling me I'm not good enough, that no one else could love me. But I'm working on it. I've started eating regular, healthy portions again, though it's hard to trust my own hunger cues after years of forced overeating. I've been taking walks around my sister's neighborhood, just short ones at first, building back my stamina and confidence. Most importantly, I've been learning to recognize the signs of manipulation and control that I missed before. I know I have a long road ahead of me, both in terms of my physical health and emotional recovery. But for the first time in 3 years, I feel like I'm living my own life again, making my own choices about what to eat and how to spend my time. I'm slowly starting to remember who I was before he began systematically tearing me down. I'm sharing this story because I want other people to know that abuse doesn't always look like bruises or screaming matches. Sometimes it looks like someone who claims to love you gradually destroying your health and confidence in ways that seem caring on the surface. Sometimes it's someone making you dependent on them, by making you believe you're not worthy of anything better. If any part of my story sounds familiar, please trust your instincts. You deserve better than someone who would sabotage your health and happiness for their own sense of control. Update 3 months later. I wasn't planning to update this post, but so many people reached out asking how I was doing that I felt I should share what's been happening. First, the good news. I've lost about 10 pounds so far, just from eating normal portions and taking daily walks. It's slow progress, but it feels sustainable this time because I'm doing it for me, not because someone else is controlling every aspect of my diet and exercise. My energy levels are starting to return, and I can walk upstairs without getting winded now. The not-so-good news is that he's been trying to contact me constantly. He found out where my sister lives and has been showing up at her house at random times, sometimes in the middle of the night. He brings flowers and elaborate apologies, claiming he's changed and begging me to come back. When that doesn't work, he switches to anger, yelling about how I'm being dramatic and ungrateful. My sister has been amazing through all of this. She installed security cameras and has been documenting every time he shows up. We've also started parking our cars in her garage, so he can't tell when we're home. It's exhausting having to live like this, constantly looking over our shoulders. The worst part is how he's been trying to turn our mutual friends against me. He's telling people that I left him without warning, that I'm having some kind of mental breakdown, that I'm being influenced by my sister who never liked him anyway. Some of our friends have reached out to me expressing concern about my sudden personality change and asking if I'm okay. It's painful to realize how many people are buying his version of events without even asking to hear my side. I've had to cut contact with several people because they keep trying to convince me to work things out with him or suggesting that I'm overreacting to what they see as normal relationship problems. It's isolating to lose friends on top of everything else, but I'm learning that anyone who thinks systematically destroying someone's health is normal relationship behavior isn't really a friend worth keeping. There have been some unexpected bright spots though. I reconnected with a few friends from college who I'd lost touch with during my relationship. When I told them what happened, They admitted they'd been worried about me for months because I'd become so withdrawn and seemed different every time they saw me. One of them said she'd noticed I looked uncomfortable in my own skin and kept making excuses to avoid social gatherings. It's validating to know that other people saw the changes in me, even when I couldn't see them myself. I've also been discovering parts of myself that I'd forgotten existed. I used to love hiking and being outdoors, but I'd completely stopped during my relationship because he always found reasons why we couldn't go. Last weekend, I drove to a state park about an hour away and did a short trail by myself. It was the first time in years that I felt truly peaceful and connected to my own body. Work has been challenging because I'm still dealing with the physical effects of the weight gain. My back hurts from sitting at my desk all day, and I get tired more easily than I used to. But my coworkers have been supportive, and my supervisor has been flexible about letting me take short breaks to walk around the building when I need to. The hardest part of all of this is dealing with the shame and self-blame. Even though I know intellectually that what he did was wrong, there's still a voice in my head that says I should have noticed sooner, that I should have been stronger, that I let this happen to myself. Some days I feel angry and empowered, ready to take on the world. Other days I feel stupid and weak for falling for his manipulation. I'm trying to be patient with myself and remember that healing isn't linear. There are good days and bad days, and that's okay. What matters is that I'm moving forward, even if it's one small step at a time. One thing that's helped me is writing in a journal every day. Not just about the relationship, but about everything: what I ate, how I felt, what I accomplished, what I'm grateful for. It's helping me learn to trust my own thoughts and feelings again after years of having them dismissed or manipulated. I've also been volunteering at a local animal shelter on weekends. Being around the dogs and cats, who don't judge me for my weight or my past mistakes, has been incredibly healing. There's something therapeutic about caring for creatures who just want love and attention, no strings attached. I know I still have a long way to go, both physically and emotionally, but for the first time in years I feel like I'm on a path that I chose for myself. Every pound I lose, every day I spend eating what I want to eat instead of what someone else decides I should eat. Every morning I wake up and make my own choices about how to spend my time. These small freedoms feel huge after years of control. To everyone who reached out with support and shared their own stories, thank you. Knowing I'm not alone in this experience has made all the difference. Date 6 months later. I debated whether to post another update, but I've received so many messages from people going through similar situations that I wanted to share where things stand now, especially because there have been some major developments. The most significant news is that I found out I wasn't his first victim. About 2 months ago, a woman reached out to me through social media after seeing my original post shared in a support group. She had dated him about 5 years ago and went through almost exactly the same experience: the gradual weight gain, the sabotaged exercise attempts, the systematic destruction of her self-confidence. When she tried to leave him the first time, he convinced her to come back by promising to change and going to what he claimed were counseling sessions. She later discovered he'd been lying about the counseling entirely. She stayed with him for another year, during which the abuse escalated to include financial control and isolating her from her family. Talking to her was both devastating and validating. Devastating because it confirmed that his behavior was calculated and deliberate, not some twisted form of love or insecurity. Validating because it proved I wasn't crazy or oversensitive. This was a pattern of behavior he'd used before and would likely use again. Together, we decided to report him to the police. While what he did might not fit the traditional definition of domestic abuse, it was still systematic manipulation and control. The detective we spoke with was surprisingly understanding and said they'd been seeing more cases like this as people become more aware of non-physical forms of abuse. They couldn't press charges based on our experiences alone, but they opened a file and encouraged other potential victims to come forward. Within a week, 2 more women had contacted them with similar stories. It turns out this guy had a whole playbook for targeting and controlling women through their relationships with food and their bodies. As for my own recovery, I've now lost 18 pounds and I'm feeling stronger every day. More importantly, I'm learning to have a healthy relationship with food again. For the first few months after leaving, I was almost afraid to eat because I'd lost trust in my own hunger cues. I'd either eat tiny amounts out of fear of gaining weight, or binge eat when the restriction became too much. I've been working with a nutritionist who specializes in helping people recover from food-related trauma. She's helped me understand that what I experienced was a form of food abuse, using food as a weapon to control and manipulate. Learning that there's actually a name for what happened to me has been incredibly helpful in my healing process. The harassment from him has mostly stopped, thankfully. After the police contacted him about our report, he seemed to finally understand that continuing to show up at my sister's house could have legal consequences. He's moved on to someone new, which breaks my heart for her but also gives me some relief that his attention is elsewhere. I did hear through mutual friends that he's been telling people I'm making up stories for attention, and that I'm mentally unstable. It used to bother me when I heard things like that, but now I realize that people who know me will see through his lies, and people who believe him without question aren't people I need in my life anyway. My relationship with my body is slowly improving. I bought my first dress in over 2 years last month. Not because I've reached some goal weight, but because I saw it in a store window and thought it was beautiful. When I tried it on, instead of criticizing everything I saw in the mirror, I focused on how the color made my eyes look brighter, and how comfortable the fabric felt. I've also started taking a dance class at the community center. I was terrified the first time I walked in, convinced everyone would stare at me or judge me for being out of shape. But the instructor was welcoming, the other students were focused on their own learning, and for an hour each week I get to move my body in a way that feels joyful instead of punitive. Work has been going well too. My supervisor recently offered me a promotion that would involve traveling to different branch offices. The old me, the me from a year ago, would have been too self-conscious about my appearance to consider it. But I'm seriously thinking about accepting. The idea of seeing new places and challenging myself professionally feels exciting instead of terrifying. I've been on a few casual dates over the past month, nothing serious, just coffee meetings with people I've met through friends or online. I was worried I'd be too damaged or paranoid to trust anyone new, but I'm finding that my experience, as awful as it was, has actually made me better at recognizing red flags and trusting my instincts. One guy I went out with made a comment about my meal choice at dinner, suggesting I might want to order something lighter. I politely ended the date right there, and went home feeling proud of myself for not staying and trying to please him. The old me would have apologized and changed my order. The hardest part of recovery has been learning to forgive myself. I spent months beating myself up for not seeing the signs sooner, for being weak enough to fall for his manipulation. But I'm starting to understand that his behavior was designed to be subtle and gradual specifically, so that I wouldn't notice it happening. I've also had to grieve the person I was before all this happened. I'll never be that carefree, trusting person again, and some days that makes me sad. But I'm also discovering that the person I'm becoming more aware, more boundaried, more in tune with my own needs, has her own strength and wisdom. My relationship with my sister has grown stronger through all of this. Having someone believe me completely, support me unconditionally, and open their home to me when I needed it most has been life-changing. We talk more now than we have in years, and I've realized how isolated I'd become during my relationship. I'm also rebuilding connections with other family members and old friends. My ex had gradually convinced me that they didn't really care about me or that I was bothering them by staying in touch. Reaching out again was scary, but most people have been understanding about why I disappeared for a while and happy to reconnect. Looking back on everything that's happened, I can honestly say that leaving was the best decision I've ever made, even though it was also the hardest. Every day I stay away is a day I get a little bit more of myself back. I know my story isn't over yet. I still have weight to lose if I choose to, relationships to rebuild, and trust issues to work through. But for the first time in years, those challenges feel like opportunities rather than insurmountable obstacles. To anyone reading this who sees their own situation reflected in my story, you deserve better. You deserve to eat what makes you feel good, to move your body in ways that bring you joy, to be with someone who wants you to be healthy and confident. You deserve to take up space in the world without apologizing for it. The road out isn't easy, but it's worth it. You're worth it. Final update 1 year later. I wasn't planning to write another update, but today marks exactly 1 year since I left, and I wanted to close this chapter properly for anyone who's been following my story. I'm writing this from my own apartment, the first place I've lived alone in over 4 years. Moving out of my sister's spare room was both exciting and terrifying, but it felt like an important step in reclaiming my independence. It's a small one-bedroom place with big windows and a kitchen where I cook whatever I want, whenever I want it. Physically, I've lost 22 pounds total, which puts me close to where I was before the relationship started. But more importantly, I feel strong and healthy. I can climb 3 flights of stairs to my apartment without getting winded. I sleep better, have more energy, and my back pain has largely disappeared. I ended up accepting that promotion at work, and it's been incredible. I've traveled to 6 different cities over the past few months, and each trip has reminded me how much of the world there is to explore. In Portland, I hiked in the mountains. In New Orleans, I took a cooking class. In Denver, I went to a concert by myself and danced until midnight. These might seem like small things, but for someone who spent years having her world made smaller and smaller, they feel revolutionary. The legal situation with my ex has progressed too. While the police couldn't press criminal charges, they gathered enough evidence to issue him a formal warning about his pattern of behavior. More importantly, his current partner reached out to the detective after hearing about the investigation. She'd started experiencing the same pattern of control and manipulation, but knowing what to look for, she was able to get out before it escalated. She thanked me for speaking up, saying it probably saved her months or years of the abuse I endured. Knowing that my story helped someone else avoid what I went through has given meaning to everything I suffered. I've been in a relationship for the past 3 months with someone I met through the hiking group I joined. It's different from anything I've experienced before, built on mutual respect, shared interests, and genuine care for each other's well-being. He encourages me to pursue my own hobbies and friendships. When I cook, he appreciates whatever I make without commentary on portion sizes or ingredients. When I want to go for a run, he either joins me or wishes me well, but never creates obstacles. The difference is night and day. I can eat a salad without him assuming I'm dieting, or have dessert without him pushing me to have more. I can spend an evening with friends without coming home to sulking or guilt trips. I can wear whatever makes me feel confident without worrying about hidden cameras or judgmental comments. Most importantly, he's never once tried to change anything about me. He likes me exactly as I am right now, not as some project to be improved or controlled. I still have moments of doubt and insecurity. Sometimes I catch myself asking permission for things I don't need permission for, or apologizing for taking up space. The difference is that now I notice when I'm doing it and can correct course. I've also learned to trust my body again. I eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm satisfied. I exercise because it feels good and makes me strong, not because I'm trying to punish myself or achieve some arbitrary number on a scale. Some days I want a big breakfast and a light dinner. Some days I want pizza and ice cream. Some days I want salads and smoothies. All of these choices are valid and none of them define my worth as a person. The support groups I joined have become an unexpected source of strength and friendship. Connecting with other people who've experienced similar manipulation has helped me process my own experience, and also given me opportunities to support others who are just beginning their recovery journey. I've been amazed by how many different forms this type of abuse can take. I've met people whose partners controlled their finances, their social connections, their career choices, their appearance in various ways. The common thread is always the same: using love and care as weapons to make someone smaller, more dependent, less confident in their own judgment. But I've also been inspired by the resilience and strength of these survivors. Watching someone discover their own worth after years of being told they were worthless never gets old. Celebrating small victories together. Someone standing up for themselves, setting a boundary, leaving an abusive situation, has been incredibly healing for all of us. Looking back on who I was a year ago, I barely recognized that person. She was so broken down, so convinced of her own worthlessness, so trapped in someone else's version of reality. If I could go back and tell her anything, it would be that she's stronger than she knows and that freedom is possible, even when it seems impossible. I don't regret the relationship entirely, which might sound strange. While I wouldn't wish the experience on anyone, it taught me things about myself that I might never have learned otherwise. I learned that I can survive much more than I thought I could. I learned to recognize manipulation and trust my instincts. I learned the difference between someone who loves you and someone who wants to own you. Most importantly, I learned that I deserve to take up space in the world. I deserve to eat food that nourishes me, to move my body in ways that feel good, to pursue goals that matter to me, to be in relationships that make me feel more like myself rather than less. To everyone who reached out over the past year with their own stories, words of encouragement, Or just to check how I was doing. Thank you. Knowing that strangers on the internet cared about my well-being helped me believe I was worth caring about during times when I couldn't see it myself. To anyone currently living through something similar, please know that you're not crazy, you're not weak, and you're not alone. What's happening to you isn't love, no matter how it's been framed. You deserve better, and better is possible. The road out is hard, but it leads somewhere beautiful. It leads back to yourself.